Welcome back to day 2 of daily live streams before we close the doors to Masterpiece, my 6-month hybrid group program, mastermind, whatever you want to call it, that has both private and group coaching. Anyways, let's just get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about doing shit for the plot. This is probably the best way to encapsulate my entire fucking life of like, just do the thing for the sake of doing it to say you done it. Because it would be, 1, it's possible to do, and 2, it would be good to have done, right? And this is how my life has been honestly remarkable. If we really look at my life in these 31 years, most of my clients will say, Steph, you have lived 1,000 lifetimes in these 31 years. How is that even possible? And the truth is simply because I do things for the plot. If it's something that's going to be interesting, something that's going to be curious, something that's going to be epic, fun, wild, weird, I want to do it. Not because I'm seeking the hit of adrenaline or that I'm wanting the peak experience, but because I want to see what's possible when we just do shit. When we follow the thing that's inside of us that is calling for us forward. And so when I really look at my life, my best fucking memories are the result of doing just that. The greatest time I've ever had in my life, the most connections I've made, the most relationships I've maintained, all happen on the other side of me doing something simply to advance the motherfucking plot. This is what makes my life so radically different from a lot of other people's lives, right? People want to care about, well, what's my purpose? I want to make sure I'm serving. I want to make sure that I'm doing the thing that gets me accolades. And I've done all of those things, right? Like I've been a workaholic and I've served the shit out of my clients and I've had creative businesses that were sponsored by the Business Bank of Canada. And I was on track to be one of the youngest CFOs in the startup space. Like I have done those things. But at the same time, the only things that I can say I'm so fucking proud that I've done, that I have felt so fulfilled for having done, are the things that simply advanced the plot, but did not make it thicker. For example, I have seen all 50 states. I have road tripped across Europe. I have crashed my scooter headfirst into a wall. I have gone to Albuquerque with an old lady that I met on a cruise in Alaska because I wanted to see the hot air balloons. I have done a complete alcoholic bender in Houston with all of the gay guys and gay socialites just because. In fact, I met that gay guy that I stayed with in Houston while in Vegas as a 7th wheel because I didn't want to hang out with couples the whole weekend, so I just fucked off with a bunch of gay socialites and had a blast. If I really sat down to list out all of the events and experiences that I've had over my fucking life, they're always on the other side of me saying, why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? What do I have to lose? And generally speaking, you might lose like people's approval. But at the end of the day, the people whose approval that I lost, they always come back around because they want to hear the story of what I got to live through, what I got to experience, how I went about my life. And I think sometimes when we are so used to having our focus on one area of life, whether it's our healing, whether it's our business, whether it's our past, we become so blind to what's possible in life that we forget we need to be seeking out opportunities to receive what's possible. I know that for myself, right? Like when I am just focused on work, when I am deep in my workaholism, when I'm deep in just, I'm going to serve my clients, I'm not going to do fucking anything else, I lose sight of how expansive my life could actually be because I'm just doing those 3, 4, 5 things. And don't get me wrong, like this is a cycle that I have been through several times in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go live more life, and then I go live it, and then I'm so fucking proud I lived it, but then I fall into these patterns of being like, well, no, I need to focus on work, I need to focus on my healing. And in Masterpiece, the whole premise of it is that you're more than just one area, right? The thing that I've been perpetuating through Eating Cake podcast and the way that I'm trying to show up online is that you are dynamic, you are ever evolving, you're ever changing in this lifetime. And so if we believe that we are any one thing in life, then we kind of put ourselves in our own prison system. And Masterpiece is about breaking that apart. What if you did focus a little bit on business, but you also still had a sex life? What if you still socialized with friends, but then you also maintain your nervous system? What if you took care of your physical body, but you also didn't restrict yourself from desserts? What if you could actually have it all and have your story have the peaks and the valleys without having the peaks and valleys feel like your savior or your punishment? That is how most people are orienting to their life. That if they don't get this one area of their life perfect, then the rest of them have to suffer. Right? You focus on work, so your relationships suffer. This is like a classic scenario for most people. Or if you're uninspired, then you have to go seek these peak experiences when you could really just go enjoy life a little bit. You don't have to go do ayahuasca for the 37th time. You can just like living. You can do shit just to advance the plot. You can just do it because you're curious. You could just do it because you want to see what could possibly happen. And honestly, like everything I've done in the last year that I am so grateful for having done are the things that I was like, that would be cool. That would be cool to join the indoor volleyball league. That would be cool to do a beach volleyball. That would be cool to go to adult summer camp. That would be cool to learn how to ice skate. And now I'm sitting here like, maybe it would be cool to learn how to sing. Maybe it would be cool to do plays. Maybe it would be cool, and start experimenting with what does bring me vitality, what is contributing to my story, and what experiences get to happen alongside that. Because here's the thing that we're going to be doing in Masterpiece. Over these 6 months, I guarantee you, you will have lived more life than many people will live in their entire existence. The difference is that how you're going to be doing it is not chasing a high. You are naturally going to follow the plot line of your own life story as it unfolds without restriction or repression. Meaning, when you go to adult summer camp or you go to learn ice skating and you make a connection with someone, that you're not fighting against the connection because it's not in alignment with your healing, but instead you trust yourself enough to navigate whatever's in front of you so that you actually learn the skills, because it's a fucking skill, to be absolutely invincible in life. Here is why Masterpiece is so fucking special to me. I am known for being someone who is deeply resilient. You basically can't fuck me over. Like, there's a truth that my parents know, that my family knows, my friends know, that like I can go through shit times and I'm always going to be okay. It's a skill though. And it's a skill I have developed by living in life. I didn't learn it through a book. I didn't learn it through meditation. I didn't learn it through anything. I learned it through living. And this is really the premise that my brand is taking in my coaching, is that like life will give you enough to grow through as you go through it. Life itself. You don't need to go learn how to heal your heart. Life is going to have you heal your heart. You don't need to go learn how to grow a business. Life will show you how to grow a business. The thing is that we often don't pay attention. We don't pay attention and we don't participate. So if you're sitting in a state of, I don't know what the fuck to do with my life, I don't know what direction I'm going to go in, more often than not, people will lean back and just be like, I'm just going to starfish a while and wait for life to fuck me open, instead of being like, well, let me lean in, let me be engaged, let me go discover what am I interested in, what would be cool, let me go find the things I love as much as the things that I hate, right? Let me go discover what it means for me to be human, for me to be alive as I'm evolving. Because one of the most uncomfortable things when we are growing and growing and growing and growing as people is that we don't let ourselves discover new things to be excited about, and discover new things that maybe we thought we liked but we don't like anymore. We get so attached to previous versions of ourselves that when we reach these states of stagnancy, which are a byproduct of not participating in our own evolution that naturally happens, right? It's a withdrawal moment. You're withdrawing out of life and you're like, oh my God, I feel stagnant. I don't know what the hell's going on. In those moments, you have the option to lean in and discover the version of you that is naturally evolving. But you have to engage in your motherfucking life. Doing it for the plot means you are lean the hell in to discover how the plot unfolds, to discover the character arc of which you are going to go on, to discover where vitality lives now, because it doesn't live where it used to. And the problem is that when we are in a state of like, no, but I used to find this so exciting, I used to love this thing, this is what I'm known for, we hold ourselves back and we kind of live off the scraps of energy that remain in a chapter that should have been closed. For myself, I used to be on track to be one of the youngest CFOs in the startup space. I was sponsored by the Business Bank of Canada. My entire identity for a really long time was wrapped up in the startup world. A360, Peter Diamandis, like it was really in the tech center. Although that I wasn't in the Silicon Valley, like that was really what I was exposed to all the time. And so when I started to feel myself stagnate in my career, I wasn't able to grow in the directions I wanted to go. I wanted to move into customer relations. I didn't want to be in administration. I didn't want to be in finance. I didn't want to be dealing with 16-week cash flows and financial projections. I wanted to be immersed with people. My career wasn't letting me go that way. And there was a place where I was like really victimized by that fact and really withdrawn in myself. And I actually got to a point where I would just go to work, do the thing, get off work, do my life. And I had done that for a period of like 6 or 7 months when I went to my grandmother's house. I was sitting in the living room talking to my mom, and she's like, oh, what do you got going on today? It was like lunch hour. And I proceeded to list out all the things that I needed to get done that day, when something came in and like snapped me out of this trance, and I just collapsed in the middle of my grandmother's floor. Because I had realized that I had gone into this disassociated state where I was just showing up to do the job at the greatest of my ability, but my vitality wasn't there. And for me to survive on like a spiritual and energetic level, I couldn't be there, right? My skill, my talent, my knowingness, my intelligence could, but my heart and soul weren't in it anymore. So even though I could do great work and cause major impact, my heart wasn't behind it. And so when you do anything half-hearted, of course it's going to feel like it takes more of you to sustain. And so I collapsed on my grandmother's floor and I looked at my mom and I was like, I think I need to quit my job. And she's looking at me, I'm like hysterical. And she's like, I think you need to quit too. I put in my notice and I had talked to my mom and I was like, I think I need to be unemployed for a while. I'm going to see about unemployment insurance. I'm just going to kind of explore. And she goes, okay. Do you want to go back home to your hometown? I was like, no, I'm good. My mom didn't live up there anymore, but we had property and I had that option. I was like, no, I'll figure it out. I just need to organize myself. And so there was a period of time where I was going through this major ego death because I didn't want the identity or the life that I had built for myself. But the life that I had built for myself was one that people wanted for me. I had friends and mentors who were like, Steph, if you want to immigrate to the States, this is a perfect way to go get your CPA. I'll mentor you. And I was like, but then I would have to be a CPA. And I don't want to be a CPA. And so I was constantly battling against what was being offered to me, right? Like on a silver platter, and how ungrateful I would be perceived to reject it. Like, oh my God, I'm such an ungrateful little brat for saying, no, I don't want to be a CPA, even though it's like literally being handed to me. I have someone, 2 people in my corner to complete this whole process. Why am I rejecting it? Why am I turning it down? Well, the internal plot, the internal guidance, the knowingness inside me was like, this isn't for me. And for me to be willing to follow that plot twist took something. It took me having to come back into my body and not live in a disassociated state. And so from that collapsed point in the middle of my grandmother's living room, I was like, I'll figure out something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll be unemployed for a while. I've got some savings. I'll live off my credit card if I have to. At that point, I had given myself what I call the permission to fuck up. Okay? Better said, I like to call it giving myself the freedom to fuck up. From March 2019, 2019. March 2019, I finally left the job, and I was working out of a co-working space. So I went back in there and I was like, let me just brainstorm. Let me be amongst other entrepreneurs. Let me kind of explore things. When suddenly I had 2 people in that office who were like, hey, Steph, what's up? And I was like, oh, I'm officially unemployed. I left my day job. And they're like, congratulations, what's next? And I was like, I have no fucking clue. 2 people came up to me and they were like, but Steph, you do operations workflows, right? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you automate? I was like, oh yeah, I automated basically myself out of a job, and that's why I got so bored at it. At that point, I accidentally created an operational consulting company. But imagine I didn't do it for the plot. Imagine if I was like, no, I can't possibly leave this job. I require this job. I need to stay here. This job is giving me all the accolades. This job is handing me my next career move on a silver platter. I can't possibly leave. Imagine if that was the state that I was taking, that I was so attached to a chapter that needed to close, versus getting the knowingness that that chapter needs to go and trusting what unfolds next. Because what unfolds next will always be better than you can imagine, because your imagination is only based on what you have been exposed to already. I have no idea what's going to unfold in my life because I haven't been exposed to something that grand yet. Now you could possibly say, yeah, but Steph, but like you've also haven't been exposed to like the most horrible plot twists in Greek tragedies. You could say that, but like I would argue, I've seen a lot of tragedy in my life and I survived all of it, right? So why not create a life that allows me to explore the bounty that's possible rather than have me like be so rigid and constricted to an identity that was safe because I understood it, okay? Again, this isn't the first time in my life that this happened. It happened again several times over, because every time I would transition into a new phase, a new chapter, a whole identity would come with that, right? So I left startup world, on track to be one of the youngest CFOs, moved into entrepreneurship, became an operational consultant. The identity that was required for people to take me seriously as an operational consultant came with that. Then it burned me out because it wasn't what I really wanted to do. It was just a quick, easy way to make money. And then after that, I was like, okay, I've got to go back to corporate for a while. And so I went back into accounting. I was vastly overqualified for the role that I got, but I also had to maintain this identity of like, I know what the fuck I'm doing. And so there's this way where the identity was always the thing that had to be maintained, because if the identity wasn't there, the whole system fell apart. Once you move into spiritual spaces, the whole idea is like, let go of your identity, let go of who you are. But like, we live in the real world. There is a purpose to the identity, right? There's community, there's connection, there's also confidence that comes from the identity. My take is less about lose the identity and more so about let the identity evolve, because there are certain elements of that identity that remain the same no matter what. For myself, it is that I am so fucking resilient that you could throw me anywhere and I will figure it the fuck out. That is the one thing that remains the same. I'm highly adaptable. So regardless of what color my identity is wearing, how my identity's hair is styled, or what outfit she's got on, the thing that remains in my identity, whether it's being a CFO, a bookkeeper, a contracted operational consultant, a coach, is that resiliency is the foundation and the crux of who I am. In fact, if you go into my human design, if you go into my gene keys, there are elements even in my astrological charts that are like, oh yeah, you could give her tremendous amounts of pressure and she'll be fine. That is the foundation of who I am, and everything else kind of springs off from that, but then it also falls away when the season changes. So when we allow ourselves to do things for the plot, it's allowing ourselves to not only let go of identities that don't serve us anymore, it's allowing them to fluctuate. It's allowing them to grow and evolve, which is really fucking funny because every single person that you know is like, oh, you've got to have a growth mindset. Hello? Monkeys grew opposable thumbs. That wasn't exactly a comfortable experience. There was a whole thing that came with that. So when we're growing, it's not just about the pain and the discomfort of the growing pains. It's about the actual use of the things that we're learning. And that can only happen from the practical application of it. And so for myself, the things that I've learned in my life have always been on the byproduct of me saying, wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be fun? Like, let's just fuck around and find out for a minute. In fact, I led spiritual journeys last year, 2 years ago. I led Sleaze Motel. If you're unfamiliar with Sleaze Motel, it is an anal alchemy course. It teaches people how to quite literally relax your asshole and ground energy through it. That is what I taught. Every single person who participated in that program got tremendous value out of it, and then I never ran it again. Why? Because I was like, wouldn't it be fun just to teach people this? Wouldn't it be fun to teach people this practice so they take life less seriously, that they allow themselves to be grounded in high sensational experiences, where they start recognizing that when energy goes up, they're going to find a way to try to off-gas it and get rid of it. And then now they have at least a practice that when energy is really fucking high, they know how to do something different. That's all I did. And it was a success and I loved it. Would I run it again? Maybe. I don't know. The plot has twisted since then. Just as the plot has twisted from me teaching money. I'm not really interested in teaching that anymore. And at some point people can say like, oh, well, your lack of interest isn't sufficient to changing your business. Like, it's not about you. Sure, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to sacrifice my heart and soul just to serve other people. Serving other people is an extension of me honoring myself. If it requires me to be sacrificed, it's not service. It's martyrdom. Right? So doing it for the plot basically means you've got your story, and there's certain times when you will get attached to a previous identity, a current stage, a specific phase or chapter of your life, and letting that go is something you know that needs to happen, but the next chapter is not really known yet. You don't really know where you're going. Well, then you have to do something that just does it for the plot. Because eventually that next chapter will unfold, it will be known, but that chapter can't start until you finally close this one and do the transitionary sequences, right? The transitionary sequence from me being a CFO at a startup to, or like on track to be a CFO at a startup, to being a coach in the money world took that little weird dip into working for somebody else for a while. Of me going back to corporate for a while, me learning how to integrate boundaries in a corporate work environment. That's what that required me to do. So that when I became a money coach, I could teach people, listen, when you go to work, this whole idea that you can't have boundaries is actually a lie. And let me show it to you, because I've lived it and I've experienced it and I've practiced it and I've gotten it wrong and I've gotten it right. And here's how you can do it for yourself. Masterpiece is a 6-month hybrid program with both private and group coaching, so that you can do whatever you need to do in your life, however your life is unfolding, in alignment to the storyline that is actually happening, that is actually becoming your ultimate masterpiece. It's going to have its ebbs and flows. I'm not saying you're going to have a perfect life after this, but what I am saying is you're going to live more life. That in these 6 months, you're going to be like, wow, this is what it means to live out loud, to like have these experiences that I'll never forget, to learn in a way that doesn't feel like painful and self-sacrificial, but to be a beautiful opportunity to live more. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. That's today's live stream. Come into Masterpiece if you're like, I just want to do shit for the plot for a minute. I want to find out what I like and what I don't like, because as I'm evolving, the things that I used to know myself as are going away. I'm not so interested in the startup world anymore. I'm interested in certain aspects of it, but for the most part, like, I don't really want to be going to Startup Fest. That used to be a whole thing that I was living for. I would get so much energy from. Now I'm just like, okay, I think that chapter is closed. That cycle has fini, you know? Now I get to fuck around and find out. I get to go to camp. I get to run these random programs. I get to explore just working one-on-one privately. Like, these are different things that I'm currently in the process of. Let's just create a masterpiece with it. Let's find out what it actually means to really be alive in a world that would rather you not actually be alive. Like, real aliveness is uncontrollable. It is not predictable. It is just alive. And so if you really want to live for yourself, this is the practice that we're going to be doing. And you're going to get really fucking good at it, so that moving forward, you handle whatever happens in your story with as much grace and gratitude you desire to have within it. Okay? If you have questions, if you want to learn more, you can send me a DM, you can leave a comment, and I will send you all the details. The enrollment for 2024 cohort ends July 30th. I say that with a grain of salt because there will be a wait list if you want to join 2025, giving you plenty of time to come up with the resources. However, I want to caution you, this 2024 round, this is the lowest price that it'll ever be offered at, because it is such a high touch container. I realized that after, and I was like, 2025 can deal with it. So if you want to get it at this price, come in now, do the extended payment plan. But like 2025, the price would go up if I'm even running it at all. I don't know. We might do it for the plot and say we're going to go to Antarctica or go on a Disney cruise ship or become a YouTuber and run my own reality TV show. We don't know. So if there's a part of you that's like, I'm going to wait it out, why? We don't know. So if you feel called, send me a message. I would love to have you in there. Again, we've got 6 days left until enrollment closes. Why wait? Okay. Anyways, I'll leave you there. Hit me with your messages around what has landed for you in this conversation today, and I will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's live stream.